K98 Talk is expanding its lineup for 2015. This means we are expanding our advertising base. Whether you're a startup trying to push through to the next level or an established business trying to supplement your advertising budget, web-based advertising is a solid investment. Thanks to Talk's newest partnership with TuneIn Radio and instant access to our sister station, K98 FM, we give you worldwide access at a reasonable cost. Interested parties should email us at sales@k98fm.com. K98talk.com, a leader in internet radio. So grab your seatbelts and take the ride of your life on K98talk.com.
Before we get this podcast started, we want to let you in on a little something. If you shop on Amazon like, everybody, instead of going straight to Amazon.com to do your shopping, do your friends at Polititainment a favor. You see, Polititainment.net is an Amazon partner. So here's what that means if you want to shop on Amazon. Instead of going to Amazon.com directly, go to Polititainment.net. You'll see an Amazon banner at the top of the page. You click on that banner, and it takes you to Amazon. You buy stuff like always, but a portion of everything you buy goes to Polititainment. Shop on Amazon and help us grow at the same time. Again, just go to Polititainment.net and click on the Amazon banner at the top of the page. Now, enjoy the show.
Hey y'all, it's Paul. I'm actually off this week, but don't go anywhere. I know that breaks everybody's hearts, but I'm here in spirit because I made special sound clips because Angie and Red Steez were super excited about today's holiday, and I didn't want to not show my love as well. Because of their excitement, here you guys go. Enjoy the show.
Two hosts that are different from those that aren't so different. It's Angie. It's
Stephen Miller.
It's real serious.
Tequila.
To make like special sound effects and then just voice over top of his name and put in Steven's name. In case you guys don't know, Clay is not here tonight. He's supposed to be working, but he's in the chat room, so he's obviously just playing hooky and just didn't feel like talking tonight because it is Star Wars Day and he knows nothing about Star Wars. But anyway, I'm really excited though because I get to talk to Stephen Miller. That's Red Steez on Twitter. In case you don't follow him, you should. He's absolutely fabulous. Stephen, are you here?
I'm here. How are we doing tonight?
I am great.
Branson. That's good.
I'm really excited. Actually,
that was a little weird. Like I was just like kind of like hanging back there, and I hear like it's like turned into like The Simpsons, like Homer getting his present for Lisa. This is Lisa Simpson. Like I was just like, that's a good way to start. Sure.
It's very typical of our show, though. If Clay were here, just weird stuff happens like that. But I am excited. Thank you so much for being on with me. I really do appreciate it. I think that some people might not know this about you, but you are actually you are the nicest guy. I mean, people.
I'm not that nice.
You are. You're really nice. You're just, well, to me, you've always been really nice. So I really do.
I'm nice to the girls. But,
is that what it is?
You know, that goes without saying.
That's totally not the same. Okay. But I do really appreciate you being here. I'm excited. We have a lot to talk about. Do you like Star Wars?
I'm a fan. I grew up with it. I mean, obviously, with the last 3 steaming piles dropped down. I don't follow any of the extra stuff. I don't read the books or follow any of the other fan stuff. But yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of I'm a fan of the archetypes and the storytelling and the original films, obviously. So
yeah, that's kind of like I am. I like the first 3. I wasn't too into the prequels. I had to admit, I only saw them each once because I just didn't like them that much, and I don't do all the books and stuff. But But I really did like, I mean, I grew up with the movies too. So I like them and I'm a big fan. Last time we had a Star Wars show, like Clay was here and he kept on getting everything confused with Star Trek. So it was nice to have somebody when I said, "Hey, we're going to do like a May 4th thing," and as I got to draw you, I thought that was so fun. Everybody's going to think this is crazy, but
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, draw me like one of your French girls. And so that's what came out. It's the Han Solo. So it turned out good.
yeah, I was so happy about it. With you, I was so happy, and it didn't take me very long. I think when I drew, there was a couple of people that I've drawn pictures of. And Clay was one of them, and he took me like, I'm not kidding, it was like an hour and a half it took me to draw him, and I was able to draw you like in 30 minutes. I got the eyes, and it was just all fell together after that. I was really happy about it. But I thought you turned out like a very nice Han Solo. I was proud of it.
Well, I do like the sound of scoundrel. So
Speaking of, like, we're gonna, if you want to talk about Star Wars, we can, to an extent. But I really want to talk about this entire Garland shooting thing that happened, and we're both artists, so
yeah, that's the shooting that happened because they drew the Sand People.
Yes,
the Sand People, yeah. Tusken Raiders, for all of the politically correct people out there.
Exactly.
I just heard a collective gasp.
Everybody went.
They're Tusken Raiders. Give me a break, folks.
Exactly. But I was
you can't draw a Tusken Raiders god. Okay, they come after you.
That is,
and they retreat at first, but they come back in greater numbers and attack you for drawing their god.
Exactly, and it's insane. Like, I have seen such well, I mean, liberals always have double standards, but on this, I think that the double standard is just nuts. I mean, how can they? It's victim.
But they don't. Of course, but that's what that was expected. I mean, it took, I think my thought on it was somebody really forgot to inform radical Islam that Texas is just as prepared for their jihad as they are. And they found out real fast that Garland, Texas isn't Paris, France. And obviously that all plays into what, of course, the media is going to do the victim blaming. It took, they do this every time, and they did it really fast this time, and I think it's because nobody was actually shot and killed. There wasn't actually a massacre that happened like it was with Charlie Hebdo.
Right, like if somebody had been killed, they'd have taken longer because
exactly.
They were respecting.
And it's like clockwork. They do it. We're already seeing this false sentiment of where they march in sync with Zay Sweet Charlie, and right after a tragedy happens, but then right soon after, they drop any pretense that they actually believe anything. They did it, they did it with 9/11. It took about 4 months after 9/11 happened and standing united with Bush and all of that. It took about 4 months for that to stop, for them to start saying, we have been the bully in the world, going all over the world and doing these things. And, Bill Maher lost his show, and you have, and now you have like a good sentiment of the left, of the institutionalized media on the left, like HuffPost, MSNBC, CNN, who have not only blamed us for it, but they actually believe Bush was behind it.
Yeah. So,
it's like clockwork. And I think what part of this was missing was this just wasn't, and obviously Geller is such an overpowering personality that what's getting lost in all this is this was essentially an assassination attempt on Garrett Wilders, the Dutch politician he's on an Al-Qaeda hit list. He's on the same hit list that the Charlie Hebdo crew was on, and he was speaking at this art event. People forget this has happened so often that people are forgetting that just a few months ago there was at an art show in the Netherlands. A Dutch cartoonist was shot, and a Jewish man was shot by radical Islamists at an art show.
Yeah.
So they are targeting these things, and then they went on and shot a Jewish man at a synagogue. So this isn't like some radical new thing. And obviously Geller had security, and they all had security because they kind of figured, hey, either somebody on Twitter was tipping them off, or they had warnings from police or whatever, but they had their security with them. which in and of itself is insane. But yeah, basically what we're hearing from the institutionalized left is America is just wearing her skirt a little too short.
Exactly. It's like, I feel like that I want to call it art shaming. I mean, what is the point of? And that's another thing I don't understand. Is they're so upset about drawing pictures. I mean, it's cartoons. It's cartoons. If we got upset about everything that people said or did about Christianity, I mean, we would go insane.
Well, I mean, the reason they can do this is because they believe, I mean, a drawing like a cartoon is, I mean, so far out of who they are as journalists. I mean, cartoonists are kind of the jesters of the king's court. They have to be because nobody else is sick enough to do it. And they think that because they write the byline, the only speech that matters is what they write. Writers for the New York Times, CNN commentators. You saw this happen in Ferguson when the entire collective media fainted when 2 reporters were escorted out of a McDonald's, not arrested. They were detained briefly to check credentials. They weren't arrested. They were escorted out of McDonald's. And suddenly the story becomes the media versus the cops, the First Amendment versus the cops. And that's when really Ferguson took off as a narrative, when, people jumped, to the defense of Wes Slory and Ryan J. Riley. Their only problem with this is they're severely outnumbered by blogs, by social media users, by Facebook, by independent websites. And not only are they severely outnumbered, they are incredibly and severely outdated as a medium. And I think they know it. The New York Times has undergone more consolidation of layoffs than any major news organization in the past 10 years. So, they're staking this ground out that we tell the truth. And there was a journalist, I think it was for the New York Times, I'd have to look him up, where he said, whether you like it or not, journalists do have more free speech than you, and they don't.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So
that's insane. I haven't heard or seen that. So that kind of upsets me.
It was a tweet. The guy deleted. It's back there if someone wants to go dig it up. They did a Twitchy post on it, but what you're seeing is this pretense gets, this mask that they hold up of, unity and we all need to come together. It slips a little bit further and further with each one of these that happens. So with Charlie Hebdo, these were French socialists that were shot and attacked. So, of course, it was heartbreaking and that all had to happen. Here you have, a pretty vilified personality on the right by a lot of people, not just, Geller's she's not extremely, well liked in the rational circles of any political, of right or the left. I think one of my favorite tweets on this whole thing was Political Math. He summed it up. He just said, I had literally no idea those assholes were holding that stupid event until someone shot at them, and now I'm on their side. And that's how I looked at it. Like I had no idea this thing was going on.
Yeah, nobody did. And I'm a cartoonist. I actually have drawn, like I used to do caricatures for a living. I actually would probably keep up with something like that, and I had no idea what was going on.
Right. And then so media kind of gets this impression out that these were just a bunch of Texas hicks in a barn bidding on brandings on what they carved into their cow of Muhammad. And it wasn't. It was actually a pretty professionalized event with real professional artists that were there.
Yeah.
Like you said, you had Wilders from the Netherlands there as the keynote speaker, who was what originally I think this was all about. It was an assassination attempt. And you already have media trying to paint this as just a bunch of podunk dumb hicks in a barn somewhere who don't really know that they're offending somebody else's religion. And that's kind of what I think the idea is. Most of the criticism coming out of the East Coast and New York and what DC was coming exactly with that kind of insinuation. You have Rukmini Kamalchi from the New York Times, who was the one who just kept digging a hole for herself last night, all free speech aside and this and this. And
right.
She just kept digging and digging, and finally she just gave up and started retweeting people saying things for her, which was just priceless to watch, and everybody saw it. You have Mark Lamont Hill, who thinks torching businesses to the ground is justifiable speech, but cartoons of Muhammad are not. So maybe next time those cartoons of Muhammad just need to be more strategic. I guess I don't know. You had, and now and this is right on the heels of Gary Trudeau in his interview with Chuck Todd, and saying that, they hide under this pretense of punching down to a disenfranchised minority. And Iowa Hawk had a great tweet where it said, if what you do as a hobby or as an art form, it antagonizes someone enough to kill you, you're not punching down.
That is a good one.
Yeah, I mean, you had the 6 authors who boycotted the American Pen Center for giving the Freedom of Expression Courage Award to Charlie Hebdo. So, like I said, this mask just keeps slipping and slipping and slipping, and eventually, it's just going to get to the point where somebody is going to get shot, somebody is going to get. There is going to be an attack where either the press will then pull their head out of the sand and go, oh geez, which they won't. I'm a slight optimist, or I'll just say, yep, you guys deserved it. And no amount of screaming that we do, on social media where we prove their hypocrisy is really going to do that. Doesn't mean we shouldn't highlight it, but that's just who these people are going to be now.
That's it. Well, and that's another thing too, is the way that the left, the way that they always propose everything. If this had happened, if they, the way that they're so hypocritical about stuff, it just bothers me. Like, exactly like you said, they're saying that she was being provocative, or that they, that even free speech aside, who says that free speech aside? I mean, you don't put free speech aside at any point. And it's not like they were, they're saying, oh, your skirt was too short, just like you had said before. But if that's the comparison they're going to start making, you can't blame somebody. It's free speech. We don't put that aside ever. It made me actually, if I had had time today, I would have drawn a cartoon of Muhammad just to be annoying, because it's just stupid at this point. I mean,
right. And the one that won the contest was actually very clever. It wasn't. I looked at it and I went, really? That's what this whole thing was kind of about. Other than again the Wilders being the speaker, but I don't know if you saw, but they had the pencil illustration of Muhammad with a sword. He kind of looks like Wolverine, and he's coming at the cartoonist with a sword, and he goes, "You can't draw me." And then at the bottom is a hand with a pencil finishing off Muhammad's like garbs or robes, and he says, "Well, that's why I draw you."
Right.
And it comes down to John Gabriel had another great observation where he said, "I'm glad my God can handle a cartoon."
Exactly.
So, and I think that's if you're a practicing person of faith, I think that's just the way you have to look at it and say, well, my God can handle this. I'm sorry, your God can't handle a cartoon. I mean, these people, I'm kind of up to my ears that I'm ready to get Muhammad's face tattooed on top of my face.
Exactly.
And just walk around with that.
Exactly. And I was just like this morning, I was going, man, if I had time, I would just draw this. I would, draw whatever. But then I couldn't think of anything clever enough that I actually wanted to put out, which happens to me sometimes. But there's so many of them at this point, I'm just like, okay, I got to think of something clever that'll go with it. And I'm not really, I mean, you follow me on Twitter. I mean, I'm sarcastic and everything like that, but I'm not really like the provocative type of person. I'm not the person who's going to, tweet out something that's going to make everybody go insane in general. I mean, that's just
God damn it. I think we all need to be more provocative. Everybody.
But that's
everybody. Overwhelm it.
I agree, though. But I mean, I think that at this point, when you are doing something that's so insanely ridiculous that it's making even me, who's like, I mean, I won't even curse on Twitter. So it's like, when even I am thinking about drawing a cartoon of Muhammad, I think that you have a problem there as far as if you're really trying to have that not happen. You're starting to make some issues when even the person who won't say like a curse word on Twitter is willing to draw a picture of you if I could think of something clever enough to do it. So right. I think that it's kind of backfiring on them at some level. I hope.
A little bit. And if Geller has one thing going for her, it's that she is kind of off the charts, batshit crazy in all of this, but she knows what she's talking about.
Right.
She's not, she's not going to go and appear on cable news shows and sound like she's just a blithering idiot. She's not. She's, she might be a little bit off the deep end, but she knows her topic very well, and she knows how to speak about it very well. And she knows kind of how to shut the right questions down that she's getting asked, and she knows how to put it back on them. So to me, she's not kind of like an ideal spokesperson for this issue, but then again, who is? So my attitude with that is kind of just let her loose and see where this goes. And she's going to go be a bull in a china shop here. Sometimes we need the crazy ones to speak for us,
I agree.
because being the sane ones aren't getting us anywhere. So I kind of like the fact that she's kind of so in their face. And I watched her on Jake Tapper today, and Tapper, God bless him, is just sitting there trying to hold on for dear life. He's just trying to like not go off the rails with this interview. Well, she's just kind of in, so upfront, and she's like, again, she's really kind of an in-your-face individual and passionate about it. And that's kind of like I said with political math. It's like kind of screw you people for making me have to defend this, because again, nobody knew about this until these two assholes come and shoot the place up. And that's kind of like the media was just screaming upset about this rampant myth of Islamophobia over something they had no clue was even happening an hour before it happened. So that's kind of just, it was the ironic part. These are the people who, they learned about the shooting and they learned about who it was. And I think Greenwald was the first person to jump on that. And then they were all upset. Mind you, these were the people who a week and a half ago couldn't put down their freaking shrimp scampi at the White House Correspondents' Dinner to even report on what the hell was going on when Baltimore was going up in flames.
Yes.
So these are the people now who are moral betters. No thanks. I'll gladly sit that party out.
Yes, I agree. It's like when the Democrat Hillary and Valerie Jarrett, both in the last week, have come out saying stuff about, we all have to take care of everybody's children kind of thing. That kind of freaks me out. I'm like, I don't want Democrats taking care of my children. I'll pass on that. But it's kind of like they all kind of do that. They all get on this one bandwagon, and then they want to scream about one thing. And they do that for a while, but it's exactly like that with the media, it seems like to me. I mean, they have to have, is there like a little thing that, like a little note that they get in the morning? Is it an alarm and they say, this is how we're going to cover the story, and just like everybody gets it?
Yeah, some of them. No, I mean, they're good soldiers. They fall in line. They know what the narrative is going to be. And you'll see it get refined. So, they have their crazies just like we have ours, and you'll see it get refined. So you'll have Mark Lamont Hill come out and say something completely batshit crazy off the wall about how last week he said about strategic protesting. We need to be more strategic about our protests, and people kind of just like went, oh, okay, no. But as you saw the narrative develop, and you kind of saw the more sophisticated people take it. Oh, and that's not a code word, Mark. Okay, sophisticated is not it's not a racist code word. Okay, Mark.
It is. You said it.
Yeah, and then you see kind of the more the people like at Vox, HuffPost, Think Progress, Mother Jones, Talking Points Memu, they get a hold of this and they tweak it to say the riot is the language of the unheard, and they kind of go at you in NPR voice and passive voice, and they go, yeah, it's interesting about riots. It's really the language of the unheard. Yeah, there's just, and then they'll put noises of birds in the background, and that's how they NPR that's how they kind of NPRize the narrative, and that's just how it's done.
NPR so it's not voice.
Yeah, it's not like they get a note, but they're good, dutiful soldiers, and they automatically know what the narrative is going to be, and in this case, they're following the pattern. They're following the pattern of, there's Islamophobia. And the other problem is they can't admit under any circumstances that we have a rampant radical Islamic problem right now. It's worldwide and it's out of control. And the reason they can't admit it, because if they admit it, they're basically admitting self-defeat on this president is a failure at bringing the world together like he said he would do, because this president represents them. They went, in 2008, they all went off their meds and they went full in the tank. And so any criticism or attack on him is a criticism and attack on them. And that's why, you want to pull your hair out over how frustrating and biased they are, because it was never like this. Well, of course it was never like this. I think in 2004, they thought they nudged Kerry enough. Like, they didn't quite go all the way in with bias. They just thought they nudged him enough. And then Kerry lost, and that was it for them. They weren't going to have a repeat of what happened. So anything that happens with Obama is a reflection on them. So any admission that, holy shit, we have jihadists in Oklahoma, Minnesota, Texas, New York, that's an admission of this on-the-run Al-Qaeda is a failure. And it's also an admission that this rampant NSA spying where your grandmother and, my family are having their phones fucking bugged, but jihadists are slipping through using cell phones to go and coordinate attacks. So there's several narratives at work that just are failing on all fronts. And that's another issue that, would have to be addressed.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. Even if you can talk to people who, I have friends that are liberals. Yes, believe it or not, I do. But if you even talk to someone who is basically a liberal, they will admit in private, okay, this president has been basically a failure. But then at the same time, they'll say, but actually he hasn't, because he is, he's held everybody together, and look how far.
I would disagree. Barack Obama has been very, very successful at doing what he set out to do.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what I would say. I'll say I think he's been extremely successful at changing things, fundamental change, and, keeping people divided. And I think that he is a great politician. When people tell me that he's stupid or that he's dumb, I'm like, no, not really. He's really gone about doing some of his stuff pretty brilliantly.
Well, the question I want answered going into 2016 is, I want every single Democrat candidate to be asked if they believe Americans have the right to draw Muhammad. That's the question. That's the question I want answered right now from all of them. If we're going to sit here and field the most retarded questions on the planet about vaccines and weather and evolution, or have you been watching Kimmy Schmidt, then I think we need to ask them if they believe that Americans have the right to draw Muhammad. And I just want to hear the answer. I'd like to hear that from Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, whoever the next geriatric Cabbage Patch haired person they're going to have jump in this race that's older than my grandfather. That's what I would like to know. I would like to know if they believe Americans have a right to draw Muhammad. I'd like to see them answer that.
Yeah.
So
that's like when who was it? Rand Paul? Yeah, Rand Paul, when he got them to kind of turn around the abortion question on Debbie Wasserman. I think that at some point, when we get back from break, we're going to talk about this, but you wrote a fabulous piece on your website about the politics of design. We're going to talk about that when we get back, but I thought that Rand Paul kind of has some of that going for him as far as trying to turn things around and brand things differently than what conservatives are usually branded as. It's like he's not necessarily just taking what they're giving. Not that he's doing a great job of it all the time, but at least he's fighting back to an extent, is what I would say. But we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that some more when we get back. We're going to hit a quick break, and we're going to talk about Stephen's website and an article that he wrote, Politics of Design. We're probably going to talk about the Garland shit in a little bit more. And then we might possibly take some phone calls. We'll see where we're at, but we might. I'm not promising, but we might. We'll be right back.
All right.
Not on my watch, our military service members say, as they volunteer to serve. As they move out, stand firm, and take fire. So not on our watch, we say, to the severely ill or injured veterans who can't get the care they deserve to live full and independent lives, even when there's no government funding or a nursing home seems like the only option. We won't leave one warrior behind. Not on our watch. Join us at findwwp.org.
K98Talk.com, a leader in internet radio. So grab your seatbelts and take the ride of your life on K98Talk.com.
Are you conservative in a world of liberal?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're not alone. Hey, I'm Daniel Stafford, host of the Stafford Voice. and I'd like to invite you to tune in each Monday, 10 p.m. Eastern, where I'll break down the events of the week, and together we'll learn about how they affect you. So sit back and get ready for the good, the bad, and the ugly of talk radio right here on K98 Talk.
Their show is just like Red Eye. If Red Eye made absolutely no sense whatsoever. Real, serious nonsense.
No, yo soy tu padre. No!
Quiero hacerte entender que yo nunca te dejaré, te decepcionaré, te sonreiré, te besaré.
Is this a Spanish Rickroll? I think he's doing a Spanish Rickroll on us. I'm pretty sure he just did a Spanish Rickroll.
But that was pretty amazing. Yeah, no, I'm serious. I do the Luke Skywalker scream every morning when I wake up. It's like, oh.
That's fabulous.
Way to start the day on a high note.
I kind of sound more like Chewbacca, I think, when I wake up. It's not good. I don't like to wake up. I would like to be asleep. But so let's talk about your article, Politics of Design. If you want to just kind of give an overview, because I enjoyed this article, and it might just be because of my artistic roots, but I thought that it was a great article. I thought you made some great points in it.
Yeah, it's one I've been sitting on for a while, and it's obviously in my wheelhouse. And it's kind of one of the concept was one of those of why I even started that fun little website in the first place. And obviously people were talking about it when Hillary's logo came out, and she kind of changed her whole social media identity from this, stark black and white thing of looking into a BlackBerry that no longer exists, to like this corporate entity. So you got like this H and then a bright fit picture, and then you go to her website and it's, it looks like a Jitterbug phone advertisement that somebody made. John Ekdahl from Ace made a great joke about that today. and since he did that, I saw like a Jitterbug commercial on TV, and I just started laughing. I couldn't even get a hold of myself. But I mean, it was one thing because it was starting to get mocked, and not only by people on the right, just by like everybody in culture, like Mashable and Design Hub and Doobie Brain and Boing Boing, a few of these design sites. And it was getting mocked and it was getting made fun of. And what was kind of happening is nobody was kind of understanding why it was done the way it was, and nobody understood the designer and what his philosophy was behind the logo. So it was kind of about digging into why they're remaking Hillary over the way they are. And people can already kind of see they're trying to basically just Obama-ize her. Yeah. Completely, 100%. They're trying to just take what Obama was and what Obama did and shift it over to her. And they're just basically trying to – the goal is to make her a symbol. That's it. You're not voting for a person, and what this person says doesn't matter. You're voting for a brand. You're voting for a product. And if you notice, Hillary's launch was a product launch. It rolled out an announcement, a website. I don't know. I thought maybe I read that they either had an app or something along the lines. It rolled out her Twitter identity. They posted the video on Facebook, YouTube. It was for all intents and purposes like they were launching an energy drink. Yes. And the goal is to make her like a symbol, like a McDonald's and Nike and or Obama. So she becomes instantly recognizable. You're not looking at a person. You're looking at, I could show anybody who's listening to this, I could show them the Superman symbol, and every single one of them is going to know what the Superman symbol is. And that's what the goal is with Hillary's H. And it's because there's a good portion of the voting public who won't pay any attention to commercials, social media debates, the story of the day like we do. And they're going to walk into a voting booth and they're simply going to vote for whoever they recognize the most. And that's their goal. Their goal is to just coronate this woman. If you can get people behind a logo, then what you've done is you've not create like a one-term voter. at any given issue in the news. You've created a fan, which is how sports branding works. Every sports fan is just basically a fan of a certain type of graphic design.
Yep.
You know, their players change, their coaches change, but that logo is theirs. That Patriot symbol or that Packers logo or I don't know, whoever's other favorite team, that those colors and that logo, that belongs to them. And so that's instantly what they were trying to do with Hillary. And it's important for people on our side to see it when it's happening, because you can learn to fight it and you can kind of learn to expose it and you can kind of learn to laugh at it, hopefully. And I mean, what they're doing with Hillary is almost exact opposite with how they had to work with Obama. Saul Sender, who was Barack Obama's logo designer, was hired by David Axelrod. They basically fully admitted they didn't have anything to work with. They went and looked at Obama's speeches. There weren't that many. They had nothing they could do around him. So they basically said, okay, well, we're going to create the logo, and then it's going to be up to him to adapt to us, which was just fascinating. It's not like something that's ever been done in politics before. Normally, the branding always follows the candidate. And with Hillary, it's the exact opposite. We have years of a track record.
Right.
We have years of statements, speeches, legislation, terrorist attacks, everything. So, and what this logo is doing is it's trying to get you to kind of forget all of that and say, oh, see, here's Hillary. She's got this brand new logo. And Michael Beirut, who's the designer, and he's kind of a giant in the graphic design industry, certainly in New York.
Yeah, I know of him.
Yeah, he's no slouch. And if anyone's seen the movie Helvetica, it's a great documentary about font use and the font of Helvetica. He's featured in that quite a bit.
I'm a nerd. I've actually seen it.
No, yeah, it's a great film for any, like, it should be required viewing it at any design class. But his attitude is the logo doesn't actually, people were wondering, it's just this H with an arrow, which it's crappy. I'm not complimenting the actual logo. I think it's complete shit. But his philosophy is logos don't actually stand for anything. He basically understands that successful branding exists is the kind that the most successful branding is the kind that you immediately internalize. So he just says, okay, I'm going to put an H with an arrow. I'm going to show you a couple different ways to use it, and everyone will recognize it. So while like the normal person just goes, wow, that looks like a hospital road sign, which again, it does. It's not a good logo. But every time you see that little H pop up on your timeline, you instantly know, you instantly recognize who that is or who it represents. Yeah. And that's kind of the goal of what they're doing with Hillary. And I've been for the most part disappointed with the declared candidates. I actually think the person who's done it the best is Carly Fiorina. Whatever her name is.
I'm glad you mispronounced it before I did.
Know. Just once. If you see, like, her logo is actually, to me, her branding is actually the cleanest and the best. It's just her name, her first name, similar to what Rand did, and that says for president, and it just has a red star in the A. Yeah. And I think that's the cleanest, like, simplest design that we have so far. But again, I think they're missing the idea. I don't think our side has quite figured this out yet.
I agree. And just from a graphic designer's perspective, I mean, I design logos a lot. And that's one of the things. And you'll see, like, if you go to like Politainment and stuff like that, I've done almost all the logos for all the shows. And so far, I really haven't done one that I really loved the best, other than maybe the logo for Real Serious Nonsense. But only the reason that I like that is because you see those two little cartoons and you automatically know that it's us. It's not necessarily how the name is written or anything. But with logos, you have to get something that where you know that is what that person is or what that company is. And like you said, the H, I'm not saying that it's a good logo. Like, I don't like it. I think that it's ugly, but it does make you recognize who that person is. Like, automatically, you know who that is.
Right. And then you're going to see at the DNC or whatever, you're going to see that logo plastered all over a Katy Perry dress for a song that she's going to do. And that's just what they're going to try and do. And they're not pulling it off like Obama. I mean, this is where Obama's strengths are, is he's a perfect spokesman. He's like, he's a Q ratings for an advertiser's dream. He's whatever you want to put onto him, whatever you want to project onto Obama. That's what he is. He doesn't actually really stand for much.
Exactly, and that's why he was such a good candidate. Like you were saying, they got to make up who he was. They got to just say, this is what he believes, and this is what he's going to stand for. Right,
and so that's kind of what I was saying with Obama. And there's a video of Saul Sender where he talks about all of this on my site. It's kind of long, but I wanted to throw it in there so people got an idea of the thinking behind even Obama's logo, which underwent several changes. And it was more about Obama himself was just a compliment to the marketing that was happening. All he had to do was go out, sound good, turn the reverb on, speak well, sound like he's a pastor, sound like he's the savior and the shepherd, and people were going to fall for it, and they did. We basically voted a can of Pepsi president. Get right down to it. So, and again with Hillary, she can't do that. Hillary can't go out and sell a message. She's not a good candidate that way, and I don't think that she understands. I don't think that she kind of has a grasp on this the way that Obama's team had a grasp on this, and she's going to have a hard time selling it. Does that mean she's not going to be able to? No, of course not. She's going to have a huge push behind her. She's going to have Hollywood behind her. Like I just mentioned, she's going to have business, Wall Street behind her that are all going to do this. But, this rebranding of her, if they don't pull it off, all the Democrats are left with is a 69-year-old woman who Wall Street loves, who hasn't driven a car since 1996. Oh, and she voted for the Iraq War.
Right.
And that's what you're stuck with when you get it. And that's, I kind of, I put this quote from Beirut in my piece where he says, imagine design in the 50s. They used several different fonts, and it was kind of hodgepodge the way everything was laid out. There wasn't a lot of organization. And Helvetica comes along and cleans it up. And his quote was along the lines of, imagine if you had this old, dusty, homemade, frappy looking thing and you replaced it with Helvetica. And he says it must have just been like scraping the crud off a filthy old thing and restoring it to beauty. That's the essence of what they're trying to do with Hillary Clinton.
Yes, exactly. And that's another thing that I see as far as the Republican side of things go. There really is a diverse group of people that are running on our side so far, and
not a single white man.
Exactly.
You have two Hispanics, a black man, and a woman. So I'm ready to have that conversation about which party looks like America.
Exactly, which party looks like America, and I think that they could all do each other a favor by kind of helping point that out. As far as who's running on the Democrat side, it's two old white people. I mean, that's who's running.
It'll be Martin O'Malley will be in there, so he's younger, but yeah, you have you got to get another white guy in there. They don't have a lot of options on their bench. Any minority candidates that they possibly are going to try to get, you're going to see. I kind of am still by the long belief that Cory Booker will be Hillary's running mate. People say the Castro brothers, although one of the Castro brothers, I don't necessarily see that. I think somebody like Devil Patrick, even though he's working at Bain, can possibly make that ticket. Because that's what they're going to do. They have to do their check marks. It's not going to be, qualified or who's this or that. It's going to be, how do we fill this quota? And I'm kind of the belief that if they don't have an African-American on the ticket, then a good portion of the African-American vote may not go GOP in 2016, but they're going to stay home. So that's how I see it, but I'm by no means an expert.
Well, you're pretty close. I mean, you're always pretty spot on as far as your observations and stuff go. Maybe not expert, but
it's the key. You only talk about what you know.
Oh, is that what it is?
You can sound like a genius. You sound like a genius at anything if you just stick to that rule.
I don't know that I've ever sounded like a genius about anything, but maybe it's because I talk about anything.
I don't do a lot of tweeting about quantum physics for a reason.
That's one thing I don't think I've ever tweeted about. But that is interesting, though, that you say Cory Booker. Well, if she picked him, would she get like his imaginary friend too? Like, would T-Bone be?
Well, considering BuzzFeed didn't write a single article on T-Bone while Cory Booker was running for re-election, I don't foresee T-Bone becoming an issue. So no, I think it's him because of everything that I just listed. He has a social media presence. He's engaging. Yeah. He's charming on social media. He's all of those things that Democrats are missing going into 2016. He's youthful and he has that energy. And I'm not by any means complimenting his competence. He was completely incompetent when he was mayor of Newark with curfews, crime rates. Right. Education just went down into the toilet. So he's by no means competent, but they're not going for competence. They never do. So that's if Hillary's the nominee, which barring her going to prison and being indicted, and even then she's probably still the nominee.
I said that
but that's kind of just
today.
how that's just kind of how I see it. I look at the trends and I look at what they're focusing on, and again, part of the branding and part of the hip factor and the cool factor. Her putting her campaign headquarters in Brooklyn, which is just the craziest thing she possibly could have done on several fronts. It's all in this attempt to get her to look cool and appealing. And, she's apparently going to go to community colleges and stare at people awkwardly while she drinks and nods her head, just like a ventriloquist puppet. It's just, I don't see how people are going to fall for this. I have hope that a good chunk of the American public just sees it for what it is. We do have a history we'll fall for the original kind of branding in politics or product in anything. We'll buy the iPod. We'll love it. We'll this is the greatest thing in the world. And then the Zune comes out and it's like, oh God, we're not going near that thing.
Right.
And so that's kind of how Hillary's the Zune. Pass it around.
I like that. I think you're right though, as far as just looking at things. I think that she gets the nomination. I don't see how she doesn't. I just don't think that with Democrats, they have this really weird, it's almost like how criminals sometimes will have like a certain code. It's like Democrats have a code as far as like when it's it's her turn. She's gone through all this stuff and they're just going to let her have it no matter what. But, I think she could eat a fetus on camera and they're going to be like, okay.
Right. The country generally doesn't go for whoever's turn it is. When you look at the history, they don't go for the candidate who believes it's their turn. We just don't have a history of doing that. Now, we may say because it's a woman, we have to do it and just get it out of the way. But we didn't go for Bob Dole, we didn't go for John McCain, we didn't go for Mitt Romney. And what I see happening right now is what the entire, the political right went through for a year and a half with Mitt Romney. We knew going into 2012 for a year and a half, Mitt Romney was going to be the nominee. Yep. Everybody knew it. We tried to talk ourselves out of it. We want more competition. Oh, holy crap. Newt just got some applause and maybe Santorum will get up there and do, and that's just what we did. And what you're seeing is that exact same thing happen on the left. And that's why this election is so critical, because this is a generational election. They have the chance to flip the board completely. I mean, just flip it upside down, because what's so great to me about these two congressional elections is Obama has basically just wiped his party out. He's wiped it completely out. He's lost the House, the Senate. The state legislatures are huge because that's where the farming is for national talent to move up. And the GOP has just cleaned house thanks to these congressional elections. And so you have a chance to elect a younger, forward-thinking Republican into office. And I'm not even talking about anybody specifically. There's about 4 guys that fit that bill. Like right off the top of your head, you have Walker, Cruz, Rubio, and Paul all fit that kind of bill. Yeah. And we have a chance to just flip the board, but they have to know that it's going to be just as ruthless as 2008 and 2012, especially with the media, because the media now knows that they can get somebody elected just based on basically the affirmative action checklist. Well, we got the black guy elected, and now we're going to go for the woman, and let's get her elected now. And that's what they believe, and that's what they're going to do. So
I think that she gets the nomination without, as far as for the Democrats, without a doubt. But I do think that we have some hope on our side if they play correctly. If everybody is willing to actually go and do what they need to do. We can't hold back. Like I said, like we have to all, as a collective group of like-minded people, including whoever ends up being the nominee, we can't just like be like, okay, we're gonna sit back and be the nice guys in this situation. I mean, I'm not saying let's go and be like horrible people, but we have to start speaking up and being a little bit more provocative about things, and we have to start speaking up and getting angry about stuff. Whether we want to or not, we just have to like stop sitting back and taking it all the time.
I think that has a lot to do with the campaigns and the teams and the people who run the campaigns. And I think you're seeing a little bit of a younger class in those regards too. At the end of the day, what we say and what they say is going to be it's not going to be as influential as getting out votes on the ground. And I'm talking data mining. I'm talking like what Obama did with his team in 2012, especially how he beat Romney, just going out and just micro-targeting every single vote that's on the ground.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, what we say on Twitter for our followings, which I hate the word following, but I hate it because nobody's a follower. We're all equal people, but for the language. It's good to get our arguments out, and it's good for people to see them, and it's good for that. But at the end of the day, there's a thing called a blue wall, and we have to figure out a way to get past that. And the only way to get past that is to get on the ground, and you kind of have to go and micro-target voters. You have to spam them. You have to hit college campuses. You have to go into places like Baltimore, even if it's futile, even if you think it's futile, they have to go onto forums like Facebook. They have to go into forums like Reddit, which not a single GOP candidate has yet to do. Looking at you, Rand Paul and Marco Rubio. And these are the things that they have to go and target voters. So I know that going on a debate and chewing out the moderator for a biased question, that gets applause and that gets people's blood, revved up and going, but that doesn't win elections at the end of the day. And that's ultimately like someone like Ben Carson's going to have a problem. He's really good at that. He's really good at getting the applause and the cheers. But it's just, okay, what's your policy? How are you going to win? How are you going to go out and win Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio, and or Pennsylvania? How are you going to go do that? Because those are the questions. The Democrat nominee is going to start with 180, 190 electoral votes right off the bat. So
exactly.
How are you going to chip away at that and find enough votes to overturn that? So, I think what we do is important, but these tech teams, I do think it's promising. You have Rubio is a forward-thinking guy, and I think he knows the mistakes. He did hire some of Romney's former Orca people, which is not encouraging at all, but hopefully they learn from their mistakes. Rand Paul's digital team seems to be on top of things. So I know they hear us, and I know they pay attention to the right people. So all you hope is that they don't blow it off and that they listen.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And Ted Cruz, he runs a great social media campaign. As far as, where he's usually present, he's amusing. He's not, I actually like his social media presence better than I like when he gives speeches sometimes. I think that he comes across better on social media a lot of times.
Right. So, and Cruz has been very strong in media since he announced. He nailed the Obamacare thing. He obviously had what happened with the gay hotel businessman in New York City just this past week. And he seemed to handle that pretty well by just staying out of it, which was a smart thing to do, and just kind of let the left cannibalize themselves over that. So he's been doing a good job. Does that translate over to votes? Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I do have hope. I mean, there were I think it was almost 4 million registered Republicans that did not vote in the last election for Romney. And if they had actually voted, I mean, we could have we wouldn't have Obama twice. So there is some room, and I agree with you. I think that we have to, the campaigns, they have to go into places whether you think that you should or not. And that's one thing that I think that Rand Paul has done amazingly well. He'll go talk to anybody. He doesn't care. He's like, whatever, Baltimore, see ya. Well, I'll come talk to you,
Right. I think I made that point while Hillary Clinton was cashing a Russian uranium company's check. Rand Paul was sitting in Ferguson with community leaders.
There you go.
So, and you know what? It might be pandering. It might just look pandering, and it might not be. And it may not swing one vote either way in Ferguson or Missouri come 2016. But those are all problems to me down the line. So I don't do too much shouting about somebody's immigration position right now, because every candidate has 5 of them. But right now, they just need to get their story out. They need to get their faces out. They need to get their branding out, and they need to they need to know what they're competing against. I mean, you can take your pot shots at Hillary, but you really need to realize that you're running with basically Obama's former digital team, who again they're trying to meme her up, which is this hilariously bad cell phone picture for Mother's Day. Like, I still am in disbelief her campaign released it. Like, I'm watching this, and I'm still trying to find. I was actually trying to find. I had somebody either DM me or tweeted me this. They think the picture of her on the cell phone is superimposed, like it's her on her phone, and she's like they cut her out and put her into a background. So I've been kind of keeping my eyes open for like generic stock photo backgrounds to see if I could find it. It's impossible for her to not look like a cackling ventriloquist dummy. So,
I hope that is true. I hope that somebody did that. That's great.
Yeah, hopefully 2016, The Force Awakens.
That's great. I really hope that happened. That would be wonderful. Oh, geez. Well, I thought I was going to say, hey, let's take some phone calls, but we really only have like 4 minutes left because apparently we just talked the whole time.
My plan worked.
So now you don't have to take anybody's phone calls. Wow, you're brilliant.
Anyone can ask me anything they want on Twitter. My name is Stephen Miller, and my handle is @SallyCone. So feel free to throw any questions at that Twitter handle, and I'll be happy to answer them.
Yes, please do. But like I said before, I really so appreciate you doing this. It was a lot of fun. It seems like every time that you come on, the show just goes so fast. Like, we end up talking about everything.
I end up talking about terrorists shooting up cartoons. It's crazy.
I know. I think last time you were on, we ended up talking about Charlie Hebdo for a while because it had just happened. It's kind of freaky.
I think so.
So, but I do appreciate it. If you guys want to follow him, please do. It's @RedSteez on Twitter. He's a lot of fun. He makes some great tweets. He's one of my favorites. I don't think I've ever made any kind of tried to hide that fact. Hellraiser and RedSteez and XJohn are like 3 of my favorite people on Twitter ever. So if you're not following any of them, you need to. And
certainly follow me and Hellraiser before XJohn.
I love XJohn. He's wonderful. And you do too. You guys are good friends. And then let's see. Oh, follow me.
Don't tell anyone that. That's just going to ruin my rep.
Oh, is it? I'm sorry. Okay. And follow me. I'm artist_Angie. And I mean, I'm pretty okay on Twitter most of the time. I'm okay. I'm not as fun as Hellraiser or RedSteez or XJohn, but still, I have a nice little smile, and I am usually happy. So that's good about me. And you can follow Clay, who's not here tonight, but he's wonderful. I missed him tonight. I missed having somebody to pick on. I usually blame him for everything, but that's @PointlessPoll. And find us on Facebook. Go to our website. It's PulitEntertainment.net. You'll find a lot of fun things there. I think that's it. I think that's everything. Thank you so much.
Sweet. I can go now?
You can go now.
Sweet.
All right. You guys come back next week. Monday's 9 o'clock. Catch you later.
Cheers. Thanks, Ange.